Hi, I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World, and in this video I'm going to show you how to assemble one of the bird blocks from the Chirp Applique Quilt pattern. So this is just one of the blocks in the pattern. It includes a total of 14 birds, but you also can make even more birds on top of that by mixing and matching all of the pieces from those 14 bird patterns. But for now, we're just going to make one bird. Here's how to do it. All right. This is the video showing how to assemble one of the bird blocks if you are using a light box. So first of all, my light box set up. I've got my light box. I've got it turned as bright as it'll go. I have on top of it a tempered glass cutting board. You do not need this. My ironing board is just quite a ways away from where I record video, and this allows me to iron things right on this without having to move it. So the tempered glass is safe to iron onto. I've got my placement guide, and I've got a clear silicone sheet. So I've got all of my pieces cut out and ready to go. That means I printed the pattern onto the paper side of paper-backed fusible adhesive. I use Heat and Bond Light for all of my quilts. You can also print it onto regular paper and trace it onto fusible adhesive, but I'm lazy and I don't like to trace, so I always print it. Roughly cut around each piece and then fuse it to the back side of your fabric, and then do a nice clean cut on all of the solid lines. The dotted lines are placement guides for the most part, and you can ignore those because you have the light box to guide you in placement. But there are a couple of exceptions. One is there's these eyelashes here. Those are optional, but if you want to use the eyelashes, which I did for this block, just flip it over onto the light box and trace over those lines, because once you peel away this piece of paper, you'll lose them. So you want to do that before you put it together. And one other thing that I wanted to show you is that this is a mix and match pattern. So I include a whole bunch of birds that you can make exactly as shown, but I designed the pieces in such a way that you can also mix and match them. So for example, this bird that we're going to make does have a contrasting breast, but you could make it without that and just cut the entire bird piece out and put together the bird and his beak and his eye and have a solid colored bird. Or maybe you're using a very brightly patterned, like a floral patterned bird, which would be really great, and maybe you don't need a breast on there to add interest to it. But I am going to use the breast on this one, and I could have cut this excess piece away, because right now I'm going to layer that on top of here. And first of all, that's a little bit of a wasted fabric that I could have used for something else. And also having two largish pieces layered on top of each other is going to make your quilt a little bit stiffer here. It will soften up in the wash, but still, if you can avoid that, you might want to. So you can fuse it all down and decide later, and then cut away the excess fabric here, and you just want to leave like 1/4 of an inch past that dotted line, but roughly, it doesn't have to be exact. Or if you want to also save fabric, cut that away before you fuse, and then you don't have this odd piece with fusible on it, which I can use that for letters or other interesting details, so I'm going to save it, but I could have saved it without the adhesive on the back, and that would have been maybe a better choice. But I just wanted to do it this way so I could show you both options. All right, now we're ready to actually put this guy together. So we are going to start with piece number 1, because the numbers tell you what piece is what, and they also tell you in what order you're going to fuse them. So we're going to put piece number 1 down, his cute beak, chunky beak. He's like a finch or something. These are not actual realistic birds. I have a whole other pattern that has realistic birds. These are just whatever birds you want them to be. So piece number 2 is the body, and you just line that up on here. Piece number 3 is that breast piece. And this is going to overlap the body. So you'll have a nice clean finish there. And piece number 4 is the eye. And again, this is a pretty simple bird here, but you can really play with these pieces and make lots of different birds on your pattern. So for example, there are birds, some of the birds have interesting tails or little floofy crests or things like that. You can use all of those pieces, mix them around between the different birds. Give him a longer beak or an open beak. Just feel free to play around with the pieces and create some of your own birds too. So this guy is ready for me to fuse, and I'm going to fuse him right here. And then I'm going to let that cool for a minute. All right, that's cool enough. Now we're going to peel that off. It comes off as one iron-on. I'm going to move this out of the way. Well, it's fine. I can leave it there. I don't have a good place to set it. And I'm going to just set my block down. And I'm going to position the bird where I want him on the block. And I want him to be kind of upright here. So the pattern has, just to show you, the pattern has got a couple of little legs. So I'm going to need to stitch those. You can freehand them, or the pattern has a link to a tutorial showing how you can get those guidelines pretty simply if you don't want to just freehand a couple of lines in here. But just wanted to show you that before I cover this up again. Do that here. There we go. So he's going to have some little legs down there. I want him to be kind of anchored at the bottom of the block. Those legs aren't going to go all the way down to my stitching line, but I want them to go pretty close. And now for the final fuse, so this is the one that puts him in place permanently, and I actually count. All right, so I just sped through that a little bit, but now I'm going to let this cool here, and then I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine, do all of the outline stitching, give him his legs, and then I will bring it back here and show you the finished block. Okay, here is one finished bird from the pattern, but like I said, there are 14 specific patterns specific birds in the Chirp pattern. So when I say specific birds, I mean you get a placement guide showing the exact layout of 14 of the birds. So here are those first 14. Here's one. Here's another one. So this is bird number 3 and 4. So you'll see some of them have open beaks, some of them have closed beaks. Here's bird number 5. Some of them are standing facing forward. Bird 6, some of them have eyelashes. Bird 7, they have different tail shapes. Bird 8, different kinds of wings. Bird 9, here's another front-facing bird. Bird 10, this one has a stripe on his neck that you can add stripes other places. Bird 11, another forward-facing bird. Bird 12, which has a very fancy tail. Bird 13 has a crest. And bird 14 has a really, really fun little crest on the top of his head too. So those are the 14 birds that you can easily make with the pattern because you have the exact instructions there. But once you make those, you may want to make some more birds. And so I'm going to show you just 4 examples of birds that you can make by mixing and matching the pieces from all of these different birds. So on this one, I used a beak pattern from one of the birds to create some little feathers on his breast, and I also made his wings spreading out. He has 2 matching wings, so that works really well for any of the front-facing birds, and he has that fun crest. This one also has the fun crest, and I gave her just 2 of the 3 fancy tail pieces from one of the smaller, wider birds. This one, remember I showed you that one with the neck stripe? Here I used that stripe on the tail. And here's the last one, and this shows you that I just tipped that bird forward so he can be looking down. Maybe he's looking for his next meal. I also made some worm blocks that are going to go with this pattern so that you could put a worm block in the next block over and have this guy looking at the worm. So anyway, that's just 4 examples of additional blocks that you can make, additional birds that you can make by mixing and matching the pieces from the original pattern. Again, this is the Chirp quilt pattern. It's available at Shiny Happy World. I'm Wendy, and I will see you next time.